It was in LA. I had the money in the bank. I had the great job. I had the successes. And I was so lonely and disconnected and really down. And I was laying in a ball in the middle of the day just crying. And I was observing myself crying. And I said, Rupda, you know that you don't actually have to stay in this. You can also do differently. But it's like I almost needed to go through this passage in order to kind of break free from this story I was telling myself, which, by the way, if we go deeper into this, we don't have to go this deep right now, but can be generational trauma. I work with 4 centers of intelligence: the head center, the heart center, the belly center, which represents the body, and the 4th one, which I brought in later on, which is the center of the unknown, the intelligence of the unknown, which is the one that people get really scared to come. Oh, Rupda, if I come to your retreat, what if I have an expanded experience and I turn around and I realize my life doesn't fit anymore because I've just opened a big box of realization inside myself.
That's scary.
That I'm no longer this tall, I'm this tall.
Yeah.
I'm no longer this small, I'm this big. Yeah, it is scary, and that's why people stay in their comfort zone.
Lluvia de luz sobre mi cuerpo, una energía multicolor me está llamando. Lluvia de luz me va encendiendo y en el silencio el dolor se va apagando. El pasado ya no importa.
¿Cómo transformar esa sensación de carencia que todos hemos sentido alguna vez en un reconocimiento genuino de nuestro valor propio? Porque merecer no es algo que se gane, es algo que simplemente es. Hoy, de la mano de nuestra experta, daremos un paso más hacia esa verdad. Rupda es una experta reconocida en trauma a nivel internacional, coach de desarrollo personal y facilitadora de procesos grupales. Con más de 49 años dedicados al crecimiento interior y la autoconciencia, su trayectoria es un testimonio vivo del poder transformador de la sanación y del liderazgo desde adentro. Guiada por su propia experiencia y un profundo viaje de evolución, Rupda ha desarrollado una práctica que ayuda a las personas a liberarse de sus limitaciones, abrazar su autenticidad y vivir con alegría, confianza y propósito. Bienvenida a Caminos con Luz Maria Zetina, Rupda. ¿Cuántas veces has escuchado que tienes que amarte más, aceptarte como eres? Ámate a ti primero. El famoso amor propio. A lo largo de la vida, muchos de nosotros hemos sentido en algún momento o en varios que no somos suficientes. ¿Cómo llegamos ahí? ¿Creencias arraigadas? ¿Experiencias dolorosas o palabras que nos marcaron, que nos han hecho dudar de nuestro valor, haciéndonos sentir invisibles, inadecuados? Hoy está acompañándonos una experta en este tema, que es testimonio que autovalorarnos es alcanzable a través de un proceso de sanación, de reconexión y de aprendizaje profundo. Welcome to Caminos con Luz, Rupda.
Thank you, Luz.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Rupda, so you definitely are walking the path of spirituality, of evolution, and I can see and feel that your mission is to share the path, share the love, the light. But before we start with that theme, which I love, we want to get to know you a little bit more as a human being. We want to know about your growing up, about your struggles, and how spirituality found you or you found spirituality. So let's start from little Rupda. Where were you born? Tell us about the past. Tell us about your childhood. And then we'll keep walking.
Yeah, we'll keep walking. Well, first to say thank you for having me. And I also want to acknowledge that you are spreading the word. And
thank you.
Yeah, the world needs it. Yeah, it really does when we look at what's going on today. It really needs this other perspective.
Yes, definitely.
And, you know, I'm a mixture of European, Mediterranean, Asian, North African. So it's all over the place. Raised in England, if you can hear my voice. And I have my first kind of 7 years was not an easy start, but it is what brought me to this work. So it was very understandable today. You know?
Okay.
Having a teenage mom, not knowing how to deal with that, for example. And then she had some really challenging times in that journey of raising a child. First day I was born, I was taken away for 9 months because she had me out of wedlock. And I'm born in the 60s, and back in the 60s, to have a child and not be married was considered a big taboo.
Okay.
Today, thank God, we have a little bit more space around that, you know. And then at age 2, she was in a situation where she got robbed of all her money, and it was actually really a bad situation for her. I was too, obviously. And what happened is the social services took me away. And in the UK, that's a system where if they feel like the mother's not ready or, not fit, they protect the child, yeah.
How old was your mother when she had you?
She was, I want to say, 17 or 18.
Okay.
And then when they took me away, so 9 months that first time when I'm born, and by the way, there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom around trauma today, especially prenatal trauma, the internal womb of what the mother's like, and because the baby's regulating to the mother's nervous system, of course. And then when the birth happens, and in this case, I hope that most babies are brought onto the mother's chest, and then the baby naturally regulates to the, in my case, they just took me away. And when you're already now starting the kind of pathway of trauma in a way for this child. And then at age 2, which is such a poignant time, and Freud talks about it a lot, where there's kind of identity that the child gets, but also the need of the connection of the mother. And you've had 3 of your own, so you very much know what I mean. And so for 6 months, social services took me to a boarding home. And that, of course, was a painful experience because the child doesn't understand what's going on. Where's its mother? And then the one that really was the very strongest was I was brought back, and between, age 2 and age 5, I saw things I should never have seen in a home. A level of violence that was not okay for anyone to see, not only towards me, but towards my mother. So at that point, in the new situation that she was in with her then partner, the social services found out about it again. And they said, if you don't, put this child in boarding school, we will take it away from you. So she found the best private boarding school in Oxford in England, and she sent me there. Now, I'm 5 years old, so I don't know what's going on. And all I remember is my mother driving away and screaming for her while the headmaster, who's the top of the class, and I just remember that pain body so much. And I didn't know how to negotiate it. A child doesn't know how to say, I need your support, So all of that is there until I'm 7. And then at 7, I left boarding school. And by miracle, she brought me to Scotland to a Tibetan Buddhist monastery called Semiling. And there I met the monks.
And then you started to live with them?
We started to go there a lot, months at a time.
Or just like visit?
No, months at a time, where we were doing meditations, and then we go and
living
come back.
With your mom now?
My mom was there, and my mom was in her sort of own world of discovering self.
Okay.
And I was a child, and I think, I don't know if I shared this with you before, but the first 7 years I never spoke because I was in so much shock and trauma.
Right.
So the boarding school people recognized that this child is in nonverbal.
Oh.
And which was and is a way that children sometimes deal with things. They just shut down. And that's what I'm working with today, by the way, in adults. But what was beautiful about the Tibetan monastery was all these Buddhist monks, they speak Tibetan. So they couldn't speak to me and I couldn't speak to them because I didn't have the cues at that point. But what we had was the nonverbal cues. And their love and compassion is just, it felt infinite. And this little child, for the first time, felt safe. I was like, oh, yeah. So my whole nervous system felt safe. In boarding school, I was sent to the hospital multiple times because I was beaten on because the kids were all twice my age. They were 10 and up. I was the only 5-year-old there. So I had horrible things happen even after, when they took me away. So that was my first such a big, strong hit of what safety means and security and stability, and then I'm okay. That then sent me on a very deep pilgrimage of spirituality.
Wow.
Because it linked very strong for me in that moment. I woke up every single morning at 5:30 a.m. to chant with the Tibetan Buddhists at 6 a.m. while my mother was still sleeping. And I just found my path, I found my way. And it was just like, I have no idea what they're saying because they're saying, oh, mane padme, oh, mane padme. And it was really intense chanting. But I was like, I don't know what this is. But, children are so perceptive,
Yeah, you were feeling the whole invisible world.
Yeah, yes.
The real world.
The real world. And then from that, 2 years later, that journey just really opened up. And on the radio, you have Bob Marley and Bob Dylan and Emancipation. This is in the mid-70s that I was 7. Then that moved me towards another spiritual teacher who had a big commune. And I said, Mom, I want to be in this commune and I want to change my name and I want to be, I want meditation to be my life. I want spirituality to be my life. And because it was safe. I had linked safety with spirituality.
Right.
And then that was, and being in the streets of London was not safe. And home was unpredictable.
Right.
My mom did the best she could as a single mother,
Right.
but, she was still learning her way.
Right.
So I devoted myself to this spiritual path, and I stayed in it through childhood, teenagehood, into adulthood. And it was amazing because I was raised in workshops, retreats, personal development, and my education was philosophy and spirituality and listening to all these different kinds of people talking about what it means to be human, and also, doing the inner homework and what is meditation and what is, authenticity and what does it mean to really relate consciously. And that awareness was brought to me so early on in my life
Right.
that in many ways I was kind of living as just a kind of a supreme kind of beautiful life. But what I wasn't prepared for was when I left that kind of commune, spiritual commune I grew up in, I wasn't prepared for the other side of that. And
when you left that and started to feel the other side or the other pole,
yeah,
how old were you?
I was in my early 20s.
20s.
And of all the places I decided to go to was Los Angeles because I thought I should have a normal education and I wanted to know what it was like to be in the world. Yeah. And I didn't know what stress was. I didn't know what these pressures and,
Wow.
I didn't know because I was living in a kind of a spiritual bubble in a way of meditation and in India and in an ashram or in Oregon or in UK, wherever it was.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
a real different quality of being.
Right.
But when I got to LA, I learned what stress is. I overworked so much. I went from really being still every morning, meditating in the morning and in the evening, and playing and being child and wild and free, just a completely different framework. And then to having 3 jobs and going to university and studying, and then I discovered overwhelm. So in that 5 years, I also discovered like a level of drugs and alcohol, which was probably nothing to most people. But for me, it was something, because there was not really my thing, it was not needed because we discovered a new way to be
high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But in a way that contrast, the other end, was perfect because it sent me into a big, big depression and anxiety and fear and all of this stuff started coming and I had no idea it was there. And then I started to see that this pain body I was carrying from my early stuff was really, in a way, rearing its head. I wasn't like prepared for it. It just came. And it came with the stress. And it came, often what comes with stress is all sorts of mental health stuff, it opens us up to so many things, even all the way things to like schizophrenia, where people didn't have it before, but if they're apt to having it, then stress can create that. So the depression was not welcomed, but it is today. I look at it as a wow, what a gift, because I hold people in it today. And I can say I've been there, I've been to that place, and I've been to a place of a really dark place inside myself. And I needed to go there to be able to hold people in it. And after that period, I basically devoted my life to coming back into this work and now giving it.
Okay. Wow. It's so clear how, like, you were in this time, like you experienced the dark side, talking about our human mind, the dark side, and then you experienced the bright side. And I think that every human being has access to both, right? To our profound traumas, pain, comparison, just like being overwhelmed and in fear. And there's a path and there's a way to experience the other side, the universal mind, the spirit, right? And everybody has access to that. But how did you, after living that chaos and pain, those 7 years, and then experiencing all that brightness and love and connection, and then you again started to like revive all that darkness. So having this information and those experiences in the light, how did you come out of that space in Los Angeles? Like, did you go with somebody? Did you return to ashrams? Did you remember what it was to be whole and you started your practice again, or what did you do?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I did seek some support with friends, for sure. I didn't go too far into a whole process around it because I already knew what my resources were. I was already connected to so much.
Right.
I'm very lucky because of that community. It's worldwide. I can now go anywhere and have that support. So support was a big one for me.
Okay.
And because I had a registration of what this other experience was, being in a completely different kind of state of being, that shadow part, that dark part, that depression, the anxiety, the fear, which felt so crippling. And, I had something that could illuminate a little bit. Yeah. Some people don't have that. So I was very lucky. And I'm working now today with people who don't have that, of course. Yeah. And, but the steps that I took isn't necessarily the ones that people do today because I was raised differently. Having said that, I recognize very much that I use much of the wholeness of who we are, in order to help people come out of that. By the way, just to say, the shadow, whether it's depression, whether it's loneliness, isolation, can inform us, yeah? It's speaking to something. It's speaking to something that's not in alignment. And there might be a deep sorrow, or there might be a deep, deep, deep-seated belief of who you think you are. And you're measuring yourself up to your father, your mother, or those around you. And it can set you off into a kind of a really dark kind of vortex. But the good news is we still have awareness. We are aware. We're conscientious beings. We're sentient, yeah? So we can even be aware that I am in a depression right now, or I'm in loneliness and isolation right now. And that awareness, I pick up from the table and I work with that. That is, in many ways, you could say, the most powerful part that we can work with, because it doesn't ever go away.
That's
awareness.
the key.
Yeah, that's a big key. The only time it would go away is if you are, in a mental health state where you're no longer associated, you're gone. Yeah, but that's a whole nother level of.
And maybe if you are into drugs or things like that, you lose that awareness.
Yes, you can lose the awareness, where people start to numb out and disassociate, and drugs like heroin and things like that can just take you so far away from self.
Right.
That if there's if we use the metaphor as a candlelight inside of your heart, they can go so far away where they can't even see it flickering anymore.
Right.
They don't know how to come back. But, the Buddhists work with consciousness and awareness, yeah? And what I love about awareness, the moment you bring awareness to something, it creates choice. So now I'm aware that after 5 years I'm there, and I'll never forget, it was in LA, I had the money in the bank, I had the great job, I had the successes, and I was so lonely and disconnected and really down. And I was laying in a ball in the middle of the day just crying. And I was observing myself crying, and I said, Rupda, you know that you don't actually have to stay in this. Yeah, you can also do differently. But it's like I almost needed to go through this passage in order to kind of break free from this story I was telling myself. Which, by the way, if we go deeper into this, and we don't have to go this deep right now, but can be generational trauma. I could have got it passed on from my mother, that she feels that she's not worthy enough.
That's right. That's what we have. We have to work with ancestors.
We have to work with our ancestors. It's also there. It's, they talk about...
It's in our ADN.
Exactly.
DNA.
And they talk about that I have my great-great-grandmother's DNA in me. It's just, like my mind can't place it all because there's so much going on in there, and it gets passed down. So that said, I do work with different degrees of people who kind of in that really low state, or in anxiety, or in disconnect. And my body of work is bringing people back into alignment, because I can see what it's done for me.
Okay, so you learned so many tools when you were living in the monastery. And I guess when you started to decide that you wanted to help, because that should have been an aha moment in your life also, right? Mm-hmm. Like to say, okay, so now I want to dedicate my life to help others. In what moment do you take that decision? That's the first question. Mm-hmm. And the second would be, aligned to that, mm-hmm. Do you start creating your own method of tools that had worked for you, or you sort of imitated what the Buddhist leaders taught you? Or how did you come up with what you're sharing now?
Yeah. So I don't know if your listeners or you know much about Saturn return, but it's 28. And Saturn return, I don't know astrology very well, but I just know one thing, that every time someone's in the range between 28 and 30, something's happening quite big.
In their age?
In their age.
In that age, okay.
Yeah, and you can look back and go, I moved countries, or I moved house, or I had a baby, or I got married, or something big is happening. And it was right then when I want to say I resisted this kind of journey to working with individuals and groups of people. I resisted it because it was my whole life, and I thought I was meant to be something else.
You thought that before? I
thought that. I tried. It didn't work. I failed. I failed. Uh-huh. And what I discovered very quickly is I was very natural at being able to sort of transmit the many, many things I learned along the way. Yeah, and it is the different tools that I use is kind of I bring them into a retreat and to a facilitator's training, but it's adaptations of different things. And it's also a little bit of my own, obviously, life experience, because I'm 56 now, so I've been on this journey 49 years. Yeah, so of course I've learned and accumulated many things along the way that I've had many aha moments. Like, that would be good, and maybe and then if we integrate it this way, it just might be slightly different, but it still works with. It's all about the individual, of course, and to simplify it. I work with 4 centers of intelligence: the head center, the heart center, the belly center, which represents the body, and the 4th one, which I brought in later on, which is the center of the unknown, the intelligence of the unknown, which is the one that people get really scared to come. Oh, Rupda, if I come to your retreat, what if I have an expanded experience and I turn around and I realize my life doesn't fit anymore because I've just opened a big box of realization inside myself.
That's scary.
That I'm no longer this tall, I'm this tall.
Yeah.
I'm no longer this small, I'm this big, yeah? It is scary, and that's why people stay in their comfort zone. But then they stay depressed, isolated, lonely, complacent, sarcastic, bitter, unhappy, yeah? Often is the case. Or they have addictions, abuse, and so on. But when people dare to want to do differently, which is scary, I know, it actually, well, they get surprised about it. It's not so much about, oh, my life doesn't fit anymore. It's more about, how do I integrate this now? And now they see it from a different perspective. The fear is not riding them. And when fear is your decision maker, it keeps you small, it keeps you where you are. And then you can never work with what's showing up, right? But when you start to have a different connection to yourself, these kind of the wholeness of who you are. Oh, I have a heart and I feel, and it's amazing to feel alive again. You know, feeling alive is not an intellectual idea. When people start to have an embodiment of it, they're like, holy fuck, what the? I have been living in this under a stone or in a cave. I've been living on such a low potential of myself. And that's really beautiful, because I'm 56 and I'm in the room and I've got so much energy when I'm in that room. And then I'm in there sometimes with people who are 26 and they're like so numb and they feel dead inside. And I know people listening can relate to this, because it's what I work with thousands of people around the world. It's what comes up. It's what comes up again and again and again. I do want to say that I really did try to chase this dream on 5 years in LA of trying to be something, you know? And I'm really glad I failed at it, because it taught me such a big lesson. It kind of imploded on me big time. In a way, that's what depression is, yeah? You go down on yourself. But what also today now, I also work with big corporations and companies, and I work with the CEOs of these companies and founders and entrepreneurs all around the world. And they sit in front of me and they say, Rupda, I have it all. I have my plane and my many houses and my beautiful wife and my kids. And they're completely depressed inside, or isolated, or lonely, or such a disconnect, even suicidal. And I want to speak to that part of those listening that think that getting all that is going to fill the part. It's you know, it might give some freedom, yes, but if you don't parallel work with this part, yeah, which is what you're doing, you can have abundance, but you also need to have abundance in who you are, and then you can enjoy it, because you can have all the money and not enjoy it. You can see your beautiful kids, but not feel the joy, because you're so disconnected that, you know, when we see workaholics, they can't connect to joy. They can't connect to their bodies. They can't breathe properly. And that's what's happening today. So I want to speak to those people, because I went there and it was good. I got my experience. Mm-hmm. And more, the good news is I see places like Nike and Spotify and Google and Unilever coming out and saying, yeah, okay, we want something else. We want to try to do differently. Awareness creates choice.
Sometimes I observe our world and us as human beings, and it's like, you know, when you maybe go to a big department store and it's full of people and you are holding your mom or your dad, because that's your connection to who you are. And suddenly you lose that hand and you get lost because you don't remember what's your way. You don't have the vision, but you remember that you felt so secure when you were connected to your source. So I believe and I feel that our humanity is disconnected to our divine and our invisible world, and to nature, and to just our source. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not about believing, or it's not about being religious or following whatever you were taught to think about what was God or whatever. So what do you think? I mean, we're never gonna connect with ourselves if we don't remember where we're coming from. And so how do you teach that to somebody that is non-believer or that doesn't believe in the vibration of the universe and the energy and the love that we all the time, we are like, we have, the universe gives us so much just all the time. And I think that one of our emptiness is that we're not giving back. We're not sharing, even though we have the plane and the beautiful kids and the huge house and the beach and everything. So we're takers. So how can we be happy if we're only like sucking out of our source instead of giving back? So what do you think about that?
Yeah.
And because for me, that's spirituality.
You're absolutely right. You know, remember when I refer to these 3 centers of intelligence, 90% of the time I'm dealing with people who are up here. And they want to understand, some of them genuinely, and there's some who are very scientific, factual based and agnostics, and they're like, they're already kind of like in defense because it's scary to step out of that, framework, because that's what kept them safe. So the way that I deal with it is I need to get their agreement here. And how I do it is very simple, and I talk about this actually in the facilitators training, which is once I can get their agreement here and helping them understand that we are in the quantum field. We are energy. That you cannot debate. We are literally masses of energy and particles, atoms. We are it. So that is fact. I don't need to try to convince them of that. And there is a vibration, and we can measure a vibration. There are people who want measurements. Yeah, that left side of the brain is it's so strong now that all these devices are enhancing it. But that right side, which is the natural world, and it's a whole nother. So now if I talk to them like this, okay, now I'm getting a little bit of them. Now I'm talking from a perspective of meeting them where they're at. Yes, we do live in the natural world as well, and they are also made of atoms and energy. Yes, we have positive, negative. Agreed? Yes, agreed. So I can get them on that plane. That's already something. And then there is a moment when we talk about the divine that they might shut down. But what we can talk about is universe. We are orbiting in the universe, and we are orbiting in a space and time that is unknown, that we can agree on. And it has a vibration. And it has a vibration that has positive and negatives that we can test and measure. So then I can get them to kind of go, and then I can say, and now let's look at some of the thoughts that you're putting out and the vibrations of those thoughts. Now I can start to enter there. From that entry point, I can go deeper and deeper and deeper to the place where an expansion might happen here in the heart center. Oh, I feel myself. Wow. Yeah. And there's a whole body of work that I can't bring in here right now, that I teach them and educate them about coming here. It's the shortest distance, head to heart, but it can be a lifetime of a journey, right? And especially when you're in a relationship, it all shows up. Yeah, we think we're okay. You can live in a mountain and chant all day, but get in a relationship, you get mirrored back, all of everything. Yeah? So it is a dance. And I am somebody who's very good at holding the spirituality and science in the same place,
right,
with both hands, so that people can really feel that both parts have their place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so you think the science is like walking to help us realize the part of the spirituality? Do you think that every day we can like lean on that? Especially to those people that are all the time with this energy, yes, and just the intelligence and just you have to make me believe, or I want to see to prove that that's real, right?
Yes, and actually, if you ask me about these 2 parts, it's more like this, for me. But yes, absolutely. And the part of when they go to only they need data and they need measure and they can be so top heavy. I refer to it as top heavy. And then if I can't maybe dance with them a little bit into a feeling, because they learn to cut off from feelings. Now, you remember, I'm also a trauma therapist. Yes.
Right.
So there's a reason how we come to be in the way we are, this form, this emotional landscape, this intellect. and also the way we set our lives up in the way it is today.
Right.
We really take accountability and responsibility. We're the creators in many parts of that, right? I would even go as far as most of it, right? So that said, that person who's really stuck up here and wants measurements and stuff, if I can't gently bring them here in I can go playful, I can go scientific. It's a dance, yeah, to really gain their trust. And then maybe they will open. Then I will come in through the body. And I will remind them that they have a body. And you'll be amazed at how many scientists forget they have a body. Yeah, they forgot to breathe. They forget to shake. They forget to move. You know, you see it sadly with kids in a computer.
All
now.
stiff.
Yeah, stiff.
And the energy is not flowing.
And they start to get bigger and bigger, you know, some of them.
And the energy is stuck,
and
right?
the energy is stuck. And if I speak that way, the energy is stuck, they might go, oh, God, that's energy talk. But if I speak in a language that meets them where they're at, to get them to understand that they have a body, but as simple as like you have a body, right? You've got two hands, right? How's your breathing doing right now? I can't feel you. I can't feel you breathing. When you talk to me, your hands, you know, your feet are tapping, your eyes roll. Are you here right now? So I challenge them a little bit.
Wow.
And then we go from there. That orientation from here to here to here sometimes is really needed.
Wow.
Because it can be too scary to come here. Because to come here, implicit in coming into the heart means to be vulnerable, to open.
To feel.
To feel.
Pain also.
Yeah. And that's why we split off from it. But by the way, I just want to say it's really important to understand when we get that disconnect that you talked about, yeah? Is that child, when it's first 4 years, you've had children, you see they're in that wonderment, curiosity. They're free. They don't know how to control emotions. They haven't yet got the conditioning and how to be and, you know, the tension and the, you know, stresses of the world. They're just in their full, and that's why the day is so long, because they're fully alive, yeah? All the way to the cellular level. And over time, we learn to, you know, adjust our behavior and adjust our emotions and adjust our way of being to the point that we almost create a different identity, a different self that gets portrayed to the world, you know? And this is what's the biggest separation, is the split off from your authentic self. And then we feel so isolated and alone because we're disconnected from that home that we're talking about. But we've now created such an amazing achiever in the world, and look at me, and great, and everybody's loving my false self. But underneath, I feel so lonely because I've polished this part, but I've split off from this part. So in a way, the work I do in the deep dive retreat is, how do I bring this back? How do I come back? Am I worthy of love as I am, regardless of what I do for a living? Oh my God, now I have to feel that. Is that true? Because I have such an identity in what I do. Am I still worthy of love? And that, when we start to peel that onion, it's, you know, it's quite strong. And yet the other side of it is liberating, because you go, oh yes, but you need to feel that from a here, not here, just here, right? Mm-hmm. Not just from a book.
Okay, so one of your big jobs is to try to help people heal from their trauma, right? But at the beginning of the interview, we talked about how sometimes trauma is not necessarily yours. So it's like an ancestral healing that we have to start doing. And if you are a septic, and if you are not even feeling your body, or you don't feel your energy, or you're disconnected from here, how do you bring this new path of healing your ancestors? I mean, that's just like for the advanced. Do you think like that's not like, it's like when you're in college that you start looking to that new door of healing yourself? Because that work that I've done, I think is like, it's like the stairway to heaven. Because in our life, sometimes we feel this anxiety or we feel fearful. And if you're very still, you realize that it's not yours.
Yeah, so Hellinger created that body of work, a beautiful body of work by watching tribes in Africa and how they role play with each other and how they heal.
Hellinger did the constellation system.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And one of the pieces of that work is we carry things that are not ours. And I got into that work kind of by accident, and then I quickly realized this piece around generational trauma, and Peter Levine does that beautiful work around that. And then I started to realize that if I can work through the body and adapt constellation and work through the body, and of course I bring in many tools, then I can actually help the individual recognize this thing that they're carrying. So I do use constellation work, but I also use that piece around trauma work. And those two bodies of work really nicely together, because how do I release what I'm taking that's not mine? Yes, we can do role playing. It's beautiful, and it can be amazing what can happen. You go home and things shift for sure because it's powerful. Same with working with just through the trauma work. I just found out that actually the truth is I probably combine about 6-7 tools. That as I keep combining these things and seeing it, depending on who's in front of me, that I can support no matter how advanced they are in their trajectory, or they might not even know. And this is what's really beautiful about this work, is that you could come to me and go, I'm carrying something. I don't know what's going on. I have anxiety. I don't even remember my past. I have so many blackouts and I don't know what to do, but my whole body is symptomatic. And the body never lies. It never lies. So even if you tell me a story and you're in confusion and unsure, and I don't know if it was this person or that person, or I don't know how old I was, or I can just stay tuned with your body. That's where I go into resonance with you. And then from there, I can help you release. And I can also pick up if we've got anything behind you that you're carrying, just by working with you in real time. So each person's very unique. I can't just give one cookie cutter for every person, but I can say that it's very possible to work with it. And anyone listening that already has awareness that they feel like they're carrying something that's not theirs, that can already help them to go, okay, it's not mine. I do not want to continue to carry it. And they can already start to tune in to, is it a feminine energy or a masculine energy? Is it belong to a parent or a grandparent? And they can already have a dialogue with that individual. They might not even met the grandparent, And they can say, this is not mine, it's yours. I don't want to carry this grief, or I don't want to carry this guilt, for the rest of my life. By the way, I know this is a sensitive topic, but religion is really good at enforcing guilt. So the guilt can be generational, but it can also be present day. And I'm helping people to hopefully not carry that for the rest of their lives, because guilt is something that you want to do, but you feel bad for doing, and it's connected to self-worth.
And I think that the work, not only, it doesn't stop when you realize that you're carrying stuff that it's not yours, that low vibration, that you're not understanding what it is. If you study a little bit of your story, maybe you realize that, okay, your mom was depressed and she committed suicide and and then you feel fear and then you feel anxiety all the time. So when you work to liberate this energy from you, I also think, I don't know what you think about it, but you also need to liberate that energy, which is alive, the energy of that being, to walk into the light again. And I think that's part of your growth and your ability to also give something back to somebody and really place that soul where it should go.
Yes.
And that's where I think that the cycle sort of heals.
And something can even come to completion in the nervous system. And then how you parent, then you're the next generation, right? And then how you inform and how you love and how you soothe another. It's very much related to who you are and how you have your relationship with yourself, which I say is the most important relationship of all, how you attend to yourself.
Right.
Well, you know, the way that you parent yourself in a way.
Yeah.
That child that might be scared, oh, you're going to leave me, or oh, what's happening here? Or gets fearful or anxious. Can I self-soothe that part? Everything's going to be okay. I'd like you to tell me everything's going to be okay, but can I tell myself that?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, and then the children are watching how mother does life, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and does relating, and she does the best she can, you know? But the more you are able to inform, the more that they can see what's yours is yours and what's mine is mine. And that's the beautiful part about education.
The transcendence or our homework or what our job is to leave whoever is coming behind us in better than we are, and better, I mean, to live this world with something better than you.
Beautiful.
Right? So if we don't evolve and we leave the next generations worse than our grandparents and parents and ourselves, then maybe that's why we're living the world that we're living now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to put a disclaimer here. I'm an optimist. I couldn't be in this work if I wasn't. Because when you work with thousands of people over decades, you're going to, you know, people sometimes ask me, how do you not feel so heavy inside? You know, because I'm listening to everyone's traumas or everyone's roadblocks and challenges and pitfalls and downfalls and failures. But I am an optimist in humanity and in humans' ability to change and transform. So I also get to see consciousness rising. I see it because I'm in the world of that. You know? I also recognize that it's not happening everywhere in the world. And of course, that breaks my heart, you know, because we have such polar opposites, you know, the consciousness and the unconsciousness. And then I'm in this place where I sit in myself at 56. You know, it's like we are in the light and the dark and the positive and the negative. And I don't know. When someone actually asks me, should it just all be light? And I go, I don't know, because this is how it's been. And look historically for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Man has always been in this kind of dance between these two worlds, you know? Do I recognize that when I'm more in that conscious state, that I feel more joy and connection? Absolutely. Would I want to go to that other side and live there full time? No. It has informed me. It has taught me. I have bowed down to it. But it's not a place I want to live in. And I feel like the majority of people don't. You know, they just don't know the step between here to there. And so we are in what's called a world of duality, you know?
Yeah. So Rupda, you're here in Mexico. You're going to give a retreat.
Yes.
Tell us about it. Where's it going to be? And for all the people that would be interested, how can they subscribe, or just tell us the right path to be close to you?
We just finished a deep dive retreat here in Cuernavaca. Yeah. And it's coming back again in September. The dates are on the website. I don't know if you're going to put a link.
Okay. And what's the
domain?
Yeah. So we can enter the link.
Rupda.com, and then the
hashtag. Okay.
No, I don't know what that is. The
slash
deep dive. Yeah.
Deep dive. Okay.
And
we're going to put it so it can be visual.
So that is already booking.
Okay.
Because there's a momentum happening, and it's beautiful. We sold out this one. And I really hope, of course, people coming here that have the opportunity. In fact, there's a promo code that was not meant to be for this, but I know that it exists for one more week. I don't know when this airs, so forgive me. But maybe they can, it's ETD 2025. Okay. And I think that's related to the year. So anyway, in September, its deep dive is 4 days. It's strong. I tell people, please don't come unless you really want to kind of work with something. But it's amazing. The other side of that is you meet yourself on a whole nother level that is so powerful that I hope that everybody can have that experience, because people live kind of contracted, you know, shrunken or stressed or depressed or, you know, such a disconnect from their selves that when they come out of deep dive, they go, wow, they feel taller and lighter. You know?
Yeah.
expanded. Right? And that awareness can never go back in the box again, because now they've registered what it means to stand in their power, what it means to open the heart and be vulnerable and be seen, what it means to use a language that supports connection, for themselves and others. So that is beautiful. And the other thing, I've decided to extend my stay into October, because we're going to, for the first time, bring the facilitators training here. And I'm most passionate about that, because it's the download of everything you were asking me. It's the download of everything I do into that training. And it's for those who are wanting to be coaches or are coaches or leaders, facilitators, and so on. Or just holding a field or holding a family.
Yeah.
And they want to
share tools.
Share tools and how relating and to support individuals. And it always starts with us, right? So it's a big piece of work.
And where is it going to be? Do you know?
So that facilitators training is...
No, in September, the deep dive.
Deep dive is in Tapalewe in Cuernavaca.
It's going to be in Cuernavaca again.
And and the facilitator training is in early October in Mexico City.
Okay, perfect.
And the details, you can already register to it now.
Yeah, but what's your... all the information we can find also in your Instagram, or is it in the...
Oh, that's a good
page?
question. We will put it on the Instagram.
Okay.
But, and I think if, they have that bio link, I think that's what they call it, right?
Okay.
I don't run it, so to be honest.
Yeah.
It's okay. A lot of help. So it's there, and the information is on Rupda.com.
Okay.
And then from there, they'll see training and retreats and so on. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right. Yeah.
Big job that you're doing. We need it a lot.
You too.
Yeah.
Both, we're in a place at our age where, and I often say that people are receiving, or let's say you said it in kind of learning and taking and absorbing and getting information. And then there's a certain point where you want to kind of turn and give back.
Right.
And it's a beautiful moment in your life when you go, wow, I now want to share. And this is beautiful what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was great having you. And I don't know if you want to close saying something maybe that I didn't ask, something that you would like to add. Like just talk to one of your cameras.
Oh, wow.
And
Hi.
to the people that are
great.
watching you, and just like give a
Hi.
message.
Yeah, if you're watching this right now and you're busy in your mind and you're an overthinker and having a hard time sleeping, or you carry a lot of stress in your body, and maybe you identify as fearful or anxious or panic attacks, I'm dealing with a lot of that today. And if you can recognize that in yourself, I would say right now, start to identify the positive talk and the negative talk in your head so that you can bring awareness to it and choose differently. Because as I always say in every retreat, worrying is praying for more of what you don't want.
Wow.
So we can do differently, yeah? Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rupda.
Thank you.
I enjoyed you so much. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. Really.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please come back whenever you come to Mexico. We want to have you here in Caminos con Luz.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y gracias a ustedes nuevamente por ser parte de este camino y de seguir aprendiendo todos los días, de seguir en nuestra búsqueda para nuestra propia integración y nuestra propia verdad, que es pues nuestra vida en amor, en plenitud, en luz y en gozo. Gracias. Nos vemos en el próximo episodio. Por favor, suscríbete y también toca la campanita para que te llegue el contenido. La suscripción es completamente gratis y la verdad sí nos ayudas muchísimo a subir el número de comunidad para que así podamos traer a maestros de fuera y ir creciendo en distintos lugares y pues poder viajarlos y tenerlos aquí con nosotros. Así que gracias nuevamente. Te agradezco mucho el apoyo y que seas parte de esta comunidad. Hasta la próxima.